Welcome to M&G Agency Life, your regular dose of creativity, insights, and all things Mearns Gill.
Join us on this whirlwind journey through the world of marketing, design, and digital.
We'll also talk brand, events, media, and lots more.
Like what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, and the latest industry trends. We've got you covered.
So get ready to dive into the world of agency.
Right, shall we do this?
Oh, heck yes.
Here we go then. Welcome to episode 2 of M&G Agency Life. I'm Pete.
And I'm Aimee, and this is the podcast about podcasts.
This is one that I'm super excited about because, well, podcasting is kind of my thing. I've got a background in broadcasting, and it's, this is a podcast that we're doing after all. So last week, we spoke to Mike, the MD here at Mearns Gill. He gave us a great overview of the agency, the services we offer, the culture. We spoke about all of that. But now what we're going to do on each episode is dig a little bit deeper into the services that we offer here at Mearns Gill. And today is all about podcasting.
Joining us today is our guest, Isla.
Hello.
Isla, thank you very much for coming along. How are you?
I'm fine. This is very exciting.
So Isla, we wanted you to be the first special guest on this podcast because you have your own podcast.
I do. I thought you were going to say because I was so special there.
You are, yes. You are special. You're very special.
Yeah, no, I have my own podcast. I mean, it's relatively early days, but I launched one a couple of years ago and I absolutely love doing it. So happy to come and talk about it on this.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say and also just getting your opinion on everything. So tell us a little bit about you, first of all. Isla, what is it you do? What's your role here at Mearns Gill?
Wow. When people ask me that, I like to say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. That's how it feels some days. I'm an account manager. So my job is kind of a little different to some around here. So I'm half events and half client account manager. So marketing, digital, advertising, web, all these kind of things. So yeah, I just do whatever my clients need in any given day. But I love it for that. No day for sure is the same as the next.
So you pull everything together for your clients and you basically make sure that it all happens and that you hit those deadlines and everything happens flawlessly, right?
Some of those things are true. But me and a team, for sure my job is always to bring together different people from the awesome team that we've got here at Mearns Gill and bring them in to work on specific projects.
Cool. And I guess, Aimee, that's similar to you because in your role here in events, you're doing the same, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have to rely on a lot of different people within the organisation, but it's good. Everyone's a big team, and I think you get to realise how much like marketing and events and digital and all that kind of jazz kind of work together to make it all come together at the same time. So yeah, good to have you.
Yeah. Great to have you here. Let's kick off by talking about your own podcast, Isla. Tell us a little bit about it. What's it called? What's it all about? What made you want to do it? So many questions.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm used to asking the questions. I'm not very comfortable about answering them. And my podcast is called Me, Myself and Isla, Lifting the Lid on Loneliness.
First of all, I love the name. Me, Myself and Isla.
I'm so happy with the name as well. Even at one point, I almost didn't go ahead with it. But I was like, I have to with that name. I love it.
What made you want to do your own podcast and when did you get started? What kind of inspired you?
So, I guess I'd been thinking about doing a podcast for a while. A lot of the skills that we learned in lockdown here as an agency were about running online events, which were some of our kind of podcast in nature, bringing people together online to talk about subjects that were important to their audience. So I learned a lot working here in the studio at Mearns Gill. But over Christmas time, and I suppose in addition to that, I a long-term supporter of Mental Health Aberdeen. I've got a psychology degree. I love people. I care about people.
I did not know about that psychology degree.
Oh, I know. No one really does. But one Christmas, so I have a general interest in people anyway. And one Christmas, I was sitting, and it was just a couple of days where I was on my own for a bit more than normal. And I felt weird. I've had really weird feelings, and it was a bit frustrated, and it felt a bit sad and a bit trapped, and I couldn't work out really why it was. And I was like, I think I'm lonely. I think I'm a bit lonely. And it wasn't for want of offers. My family had invited me around, but for some reason I was at my home and it occurred to me I felt lonely. And then I realised there was a lot of shame around that subject. And I was like, sat and thought about it for a little while, and I was like, well, if I feel lonely, there's nothing special about me. I won't be the first person to have felt lonely. So then I started to
There is plenty special about you, by the way. Plenty.
Thank you. But I did a little bit of digging and could see very clearly the huge number of reasons that people feel lonely. All of us feel lonely at some point. There was talk of it being a national epidemic of its own on the back of COVID.
Yeah.
And so I just thought, this is maybe my podcast subject then. It's something I care a lot about. It's something that might help people feel a little bit less lonely. So I guess what I wanted to do was talk to people about A, why they have been feeling lonely, and I guess B, more importantly, what they do to feel better or to help with those feelings, and also talk to people who absolutely embrace being on their own and love it and cherish time on their own. So that was, in a nutshell, that's not very nutshellish, my podcast.
I think that, firstly, that is a really nice reason to do a podcast because it was something you were going through. You recognized that there was an opportunity to probably reach out to others and offer support. So I guess this all kind of comes under health and well-being, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess. And then for sure, lots of that were in what people talk about. I suppose it's potentially a lifestyle, mental health related issue, but there are lots of things that you can do to help it that involve activities, social connections. Just there's all sorts of things you can do. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Don't know if I answered your question there, but
where can we listen to your podcast?
I think it's on almost everywhere you can listen to a podcast. It's on Spotify. Is it on Apple? I tried to get it on Apple. I think it's still in the process. Pretty much everywhere you listen to your podcasts, it is there.
Right. And will there be a season 2?
Yes, I hope so. I definitely have a group of people that had offered to come on. It's been more about me finding the time to do it because I do it in my own time, obviously not on work time. But I would like very much for there to be a season 2 very soon.
We look forward to that.
Okay, guys, I guess let's take a step back and kind of explore what a podcast is and why we need them, why we do them.
Okay, I've got the answer to that. This is a podcast. I'm hilarious. We've actually got sound effects. I won't overuse the sound effects. By definition, I guess, a podcast is an audio or visual program available for streaming or download, typically consisting of episodic series covering various topics and genres. That's a very dictionary explanation right there.
Perfect. And I mean, in terms of our clients, like why should they use them? What's the benefits of a podcast? I
think, and Isla, please jump in at any point here, I think podcasts are just such a great way of communicating in a way that's just a little bit different.
Yeah, like way more personal. It's a chance to see the humans, hear people talk a little bit more openly and honestly about the things that matter to your organization or to your audience.
So I guess in terms of brand visibility, for a start, podcasts would offer a unique platform to showcase your brand's personality, your values, your culture, all of that kind of stuff. And it's a nice way to reach potentially a whole new audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People from all around the world.
Yeah.
And once your podcast is out there, it's out there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Audience engagement, it's a nice way of kind of communicating with your potential customers. You can do a lot of Q&A style things on a podcast, using your social channels to back up what you're doing on your podcast and get some interaction. A lot of companies would do podcasting to position themselves as thought leaders.
Yeah.
So you can potentially have subjects that might be a little bit boring, but you can actually bring them to life and create fun features that kind of make these things a really good listening. I think that's an important point. People want to listen to something that's fun, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
Sure.
So different ways you can approach a podcast, I guess. You've got podcasts for thought leadership. You've got podcasts that you might want to use in a sales kind of way. I would always say do that very subtly. No one likes being sold to.
Yeah, like educate people maybe more than sales. If there's anything that if you have... if there's an issue that you want to discuss, if there is a problem in your industry that you can potentially help people solve, maybe have discussions around how, educate people into what it is that you're doing, bring them on the journey with you, spark a little bit of interest, I guess.
And that is a really nice point, bringing them on a journey, because for me, a podcast is a very one-to-one thing. When I'm in a broadcast situation, I feel you're talking to one person, one pair of ears. Yeah. don't know how you listen to your podcast, but I will listen on my commute, or I'll listen to them at night when I drift off.
Yeah, I listen to them on a run. And actually, funny, talking about loneliness as well, I think they're a really good way of feeling connected to people. If you find a podcast that you're interested in, be it work, be it leisure, be whatever it is, listening to them, you can just sometimes feel like you're part of that little conversation. I was listening to one with Fern Cotton and Dom French the other day as well. You just feel like you're sat with them with your cup of tea, blethering. And so they're good in all sorts of levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess for us, Mearns and Gill, it's a chance for us to, I guess, show all the different things that happens in an agency, and also for people just to kind of get to meet the team, really.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is anyone going to approve these podcasts? Do we have to run them past anyone?
Free reign.
I think we can go a little bit wild. Hope the boss isn't listening. If he is listening, it's probably on Spotify and it's too late. Sorry, Mike.
Okay, so I guess, Pete, this is your thing, podcasting. I mean, what process do you go through to make a podcast or to make a podcast for your clients? I mean, what's the Pete's podcast process?
Pete's podcast process?
Yeah.
I don't know if we can make that a thing.
I think we should.
The 3 Ps. So I guess we've worked on podcasting here at Mearns Gill for quite a bit now, and we have, I guess, quite a good process on how we like to approach it. First of all, when we meet with a client who's interested in embarking on their own podcast, we'll do a bit of a discovery with them, kind of dig into what's their purpose, what's their goals, what are their expectations, what do they want to get out of their podcast? And from there, we would look at shaping a kind of a rough episode guide. So say a client wants to have a series of 10, we would look at what each episode would look like. And then from there, we flesh out the content and we kind of create a full guide for each single episode. So that would include things like their intro music, which we know is so important.
Very fun.
Stuff like engaging features. I love a bit of a fun feature. So you can throw a lot of creative stuff into your podcast just to kind of mix them up and make them fun. And we kind of look for a kind of content duration to be roughly between 30 and 40 minutes. I think as a guide, you don't want them to be too long. I think it's nice if you can listen to them on your commute,
keep them engaged.
But equally not too short. We will also help with podcast naming. We have a full design team here at Mearns & Gill, so we can design the cover artwork, which looks cool when you start looking at it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And then we get to recording. So we've got our M&G Podcast Room that we're in right now.
It looks beautiful.
So good.
Beautiful
Thank you. I'm still pushing for a few extra neon lights.
Do we need them?
I did bring up the subject of a mini bar, which I think is an important addition.
Essential.
Sure, yeah.
So
keep your guests relaxed.
Still to get sign off on that. When we go to record, we'll also kind of give some hints and tips. Podcasts, the great thing about it is you don't have to be a presenter. They can be quite raw, but it's also good to give some tips. The basics that we all speak about a lot is always smile when you talk, which we all do. So we're sitting in a room smiling at each other.
I've got to instantly smile now.
But you can really hear a smile. So it's those little things that we can do to help you out when you want to kind of come and record your podcast. And then there's the production. So slick intro. I think the intro is very important. Picking music, I think, always packs a little bit of a punch. Getting a cool, powerful intro song. That took us a long time to land on a piece of music that we all agreed on. But I think we got there in the end. Yes. Once we have our podcast and we've produced it and our client loves it and they sign it off, we then want to host it. So we can take care of dispatch. So we can host it on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, any platform really. It might perhaps be an internal comms kind of podcast, in which case we can supply the files that you would share with your personnel internally or upload onto an intranet. So there's lots of things we can do around there.
I think that's how a lot of our clients are starting, isn't it? It's kind of more aimed internally, first of all, find their feet going for it. And then the plan is once they're ready to get going and put something that's a bit more globally reached.
Almost like a bit of a soft launch.
Yeah.
Whereas we just went right in head first, didn't we?
Yeah, but we've got you, local radio DJ.
Professional.
We're in safe hands. And Aimee, you're also great at this.
I wouldn't go that far, but I've had a good teacher.
You've been great. So we've got the podcast. You're now live. You're on a hosting platform. We can use those platforms to get some stats and figures, which are really interesting. Isla, you've had listeners from around the world on your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I will try and not make this sound more exciting than it is, but it is one of the fun parts of doing a podcast is when you get really great stats in terms of where your listeners are from. So obviously you put your podcast out there, and then I certainly don't have a budget to advertise, so the luck is where people find them. But you can see, like, I think my second most number of listeners are in America.
That's
They're
cool.
listening in Australia.
Amazing.
And what you said earlier about the joy of a podcast as well is it's not just, you put it out that week and people listen or they don't. I've had more listens to my podcast since they were all launched and they've just sat there than I ever did in the weeks surrounding them going live. So I think I've had 6 podcasts out there now, and I think there are about 3,500 listens between the 6 of them.
That is incredible.
I know it's no doubt you have a CEO, but for like a tiny little podcast in loneliness.
You're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And on that side of things, if you have a podcast and you've launched it, we can also help you promote it. So whether you promote it organically, Isla, like you did, we can do all kinds of fun stuff like creating visual tease clips that you can promote your next podcast when it drops next week. We have a PR and marketing team here, so we can do a whole bunch of stuff to take that podcast to the next level. So Aimee, what do you think? That was Pete's podcast process.
Impressive. I think I know so much more now.
Good.
So, I mean, we've discussed the process, which was fab, but what do we love about podcasting? Isla, I'm going to chuck this back at you now. What do you love about podcasting?
So I really love talking to people. So that is a big deal for me. I feel honoured, actually, that I get to spend 40, 50 minutes with someone just listening to them tell their story. So I know that's not necessarily how all podcasts have to work, but for me, I love that. And I guess with the subject matter that we're covering in my one as well, I feel nice in my heart when I get emails from people saying, oh my goodness, like, thank you for talking about this subject. Like, it's really made me feel better. It has literally made me feel not alone. So again, it's a specific subject, but getting feedback, knowing that you're talking about subjects that are making a difference or that are resonating with your audience is an awesome feeling.
Yeah, that's really rewarding.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I'm with you on the whole storytelling piece. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
There's a cheesy proverb that I want to throw out there, if that's okay.
Yes.
So let me see if I can remember this. Is it, tell me a truth, I will believe. Tell me a fact and I will learn. But tell me a story and it will live in my heart forever.
Oh, that's
so true.
And I think that can go across everything from your entertainment podcasts to also your business podcasts, because people really will remember the podcasts that have a little bit of a story behind them.
You know what? That's actually funny. That's relevant to almost everything we do here at Mearns Gill. Not to like bring it back to that, but like everything is about a story, bringing people on that journey with you.
And in terms of a listener, the thing I love about podcasts is you can choose to listen to a podcast based on your interests. If you're a runner, you can listen to running podcasts. Aimee, you might be into true crime.
I was going to say, I'm not a runner, but I'm definitely into true crime. Yeah,
So
I'm invested in that for sure.
So there's so many good true crime podcasts.
Oh, it's true.
Locally or internationally, there's just so much out there. So yeah, I think we're all on the same same page there.
Yeah.
You're quite new to podcasting, Aimee. How's it been for you so far? We're only on episode 2.
It's been good. Chatting to different people within Mearns Gill and just exploring the process has been quite new to me as well, because obviously I've not been involved in a podcast before, but it's amazing what goes into it and what can come out of it and how people can benefit from it. So yeah, it's been great.
And what I love is you're helping us keep everything on track and running on time, aren't you?
Yes.
Slicker than the average, Aimee.
Okay, so on that note, let's get to the next segment of the podcast. It is a case study corner.
Oh, case study corner. I think
good.
that almost needs its own jingle.
Yeah, go for it.
What do you think? I wonder if we could do something like Case Study Corner. Or how about we take a line each? Case
Study
Corner.
Oh, we've nailed it. Perfect. Who needs all the production?
No one.
When we can just do it ourselves. Right, so this
Magical.
part of the podcast, Case Study Corner, is when we're going to take a case study, we're going to talk about a project, and we're going to break it up and divulge and dig into it and just talk through what we loved about it and how it all went. So as this is podcasting, it's up to me to choose this one, which I'm very privileged to do. So the case study I'm going to bring into Case Study Corner. Let me just move into the corner. All right, here I am. I'm in the corner. We're going to talk about a podcast that I produced last month, which is called Bradley Boyd, Fitter for Life. So Bradley, he's a personal trainer. He's an online coach and he wanted to embark on his own podcast. It was a dream of his and we made it happen. Now, you can listen to this on Spotify or Apple Music or all the platforms. Bradley Boyd, Fitter for Life. What I love about it is it's a very honest account. He opens up about his struggles with weight gain, alcohol, to the point where he turns his life around, and he gives some really good advice on health and fitness with some do's and don'ts. So Isla, much like your podcast, it's a podcast that's quite an honest account of his own life, but also something that's out there to help others.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And he'd never done a podcast before. He came in and he absolutely nailed it. Now, you can have podcasts where there's, various hosts. His was just him solo, and he did a great job.
That's what I was going to say. That's what's so impressive about his one is I think it's easier to be the host and then ask questions and let someone else talk. But the fact he talks so enthusiastically and so engagingly, but it is just him for most of them, I think, isn't it? Am I right in saying that you join him for one? But
I join him for one to facilitate a bit of a Q&A episode. But so I helped him with the content guide, and we had a lot of conversations about it, but then Brad shaped it in a way that worked for him, which I thought was important. We helped in other ways with the naming of the podcast and the cover artwork design. So we did a little photo shoot in our studio next door with Brad, and we made him a cool cover artwork design, which he's still rocking with. It looks great. He was a natural on the mic, so it was quite easy to record. We worked hard on a really nice, slick intro piece that he did. He loved his intro music as well. Again, it's motivational. It's really energetic. And we recorded the first full series, and we scheduled it to run an episode a week. So a new episode dropped every week, and we just did 5 episodes for his first series, which actually covered a lot, from his own story to various things about training, what to do, what not to do, how to keep your diet on track, and all this great stuff. We helped him with teaser clips that he used to promote them. And we also wrote our press release. Well, Sarah in our PR department wrote a press release, which was picked up by various people in Aberdeen. So that was excellent. That really got it out there. Yeah. And he saw a bit of a spike in his listeners just after that, which was excellent. He's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and he has had hundreds of downloads so far with some real interesting stats. He's had listeners in Australia, Holland, and Morocco, and obviously a lot in Aberdeen. And you can really dig in to see it. You can see people in Inverurie and people in Peterhead that have listened.
It's so exciting.
It's really fascinating. And what I loved about this podcast, he didn't want to do it to gain business.
Yeah.
It was purely just to help people. But as a result, he's had a couple of leads and he's taken on some new clients. So yeah, Bradley Boyd, Fitter for Life, one you should check out. It's a project that I really enjoyed working on. That is Case
Study
Corner.
Okay, so let's take a bit of a step back from podcasts. Let's chat about what's been going on behind the scenes at Mearns Gill.
This sounds like a fun feature.
Yeah.
Are we talking non-work related?
Oh,
or
non-work related. Let's go for it.
Right, okay. Well, first of all, I believe there was a night out on Friday. I couldn't make it along, but I've seen some photos and someone was dressed up as a dartboard. What happened?
Yeah, we had we call them work hennies and work stag do's.
Okay.
We're all very close here at Mearns Gill. We're all a big friendly bunch, so we like to celebrate big occasions in people's lives. And Julian, one of our colleagues, is getting married this year. So yeah, we had a work henny.
So why was she dressed as a dartboard?
She's a bit of a darts pro, isn't she?
Yeah,
darts
absolutely.
and pool, it's her jam. So yeah, we dressed her up as a big dartboard and she was walking around Aberdeen looking very fun.
So what is the gossip that came out of this night out? Is there anything that's safe to tell?
Well, I don't know that there was anything overly bad. I know, like Aimee said, we're a really tight team here. But whenever there's a level of competition, then that goes out the window for some people anyway.
There's always one in each workplace. Who's the most competitive? Andrew Spence. So that's our account management team lead. No surprises, he's competitive. What about Mike, our MD?
Mike also quite competitive, a bit calmer with it, quieter with it, but I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, and Malcolm won. But yeah, I don't know who the last 3 were, but I imagine Michael have been in there with them as well.
By that point, I think we were kind of not feeling very competitive because we weren't very good at pools. So we were just
Aimee and I
playing
were
darts.
first out, I think.
We were just like, no, let's just leave it to the professionals here.
2 questions. Who got most drunk and who was last man standing?
Or it might be the same person.
Yeah,
Both.
I feel like that's the case.
I'm going to say Graham.
I mean, we've got 2 Grahams,
There
which
is
is
2
quite
Grahams.
confusing.
Maybe we just stick to Graham,
Yeah, I
and then
think
there's
Graham.
nobody knows which
We'll
one for
just
sure.
go with Graham and you'll meet him on a future episode.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to hear more of these behind the scenes at Mearns Gill, non-work related things throughout this podcast series. But let's get it back on track. We're talking about podcasts. Aimee, you're quite new to podcasting, so why don't you wrap this up? Give us some key takeaways that you've got out of this.
Yeah, okay, for sure, because I'm a bit of a newbie. Here are my takeaways. I mean, smell when you talk, and that makes a huge difference.
Yes.
You can definitely hear it in your voice. So number 1, know your story and content. I think that's really important, and the listeners will take that away from you when you know your story and you're passionate about it.
Do you know what I was going to say, Aimee? Be passionate about it.
Yeah.
That's exactly spot on. If you care about what you're talking about or asking about, your guests will, your leaders will, it's infectious. So definitely don't do something because you think it's the right thing to do. Have a podcast that makes your heart sing.
Yeah,
Good point.
for sure. I guess keep your podcast to around 30 to 40 minutes. Try not to waffle. I'm pretty sure we've probably broken that rule already. But
what we're sitting
here
at,
we are.
we might still be within that realms. We'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Make the most of your recording time and be organised. Have a plan, the process, like Pete discussed. And I guess finally, you can podcast as a thought leader. So you can have it for educational purposes or just to tell your story. So it can be very varied, but very interesting.
Some really good takeaways there, Aimee. So I guess if you want to know more about anything we've spoken about today, you can drop us a line. Just get in touch. How do they do that, Aimee?
You can find us on Instagram at Mearns Gill. You can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn or online.
I'd like to say a big thanks to Isla for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been good fun.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, Isla. And we'll see you next time when we're going to be talking brand. See ya.
See you soon.
Bye.